There are many misconceptions about the effect of the DH that we should clear up. The most common one is the image that the National League has built their teams based on speed and strategy, while the DH has made the American League care only about slugging. Let's look at the facts. So I looked up the top 10 career stolen base leaders for players still active in 2016. And this is the chart. The A stands for players that were primarily played in the American League, primarily in the National League. Now you'd think most of them would be National League players, wouldn't you? Well, that's wrong. Turns out 6 of these were American League players, 3 were National League players, and 1 was about equal in both, Beltran down here at number 9. So the National League players only occupied the number 2, 4, and 6 slots with Reyes, Rollins, and Bourne, while the American League occupied the number 1, 3, and 5 slots with Suzuki, Crawford, Rajai Davis, and then number 7, A-Rod, Ellsbury, Beltran at number 9, equal in both leagues, and then Crisp down at number 10. Now let's look at team stats and stolen bases over the past 8 years. From 2009 through 2016, the American League has averaged more stolen bases per team than the National League. That's 98 per year per team in the American League, 94 in the National League. Now part of that is because pitchers don't steal, but that does not explain several other stats. When you look at the number of players in each league that had at least 40 stolen bases over the last 8 years, it has averaged exactly the same, 3.0 in each league. That's the number of players that had at least 40 stolen bases each year. Then when you look at how many had between 20 and 39, and it turns out exactly the same in both leagues. It's averaged 16.5 players per year over the last 8 years. So the American League has had just as many good base stealers as the National League has. Now another measure of speed is how often do runners advance an extra base on a single or double. And the answer is, again, the same in both leagues, 40%. So people say that the American League just sits back and waits for a 3-run homer, so their base runners only advance 1 base at a time. As you can see, that's totally false. So you see, that means that National Leagues have been building their teams based on speed and strategy, while the American Leagues built only on slugging is not true. To further show this, let's take a look at sacrifice bunts. The bunts for the 1 through 8 slots of batting order for each leg are about the same. It was 14.8 versus 16.4. And breaking down by batting slot, this is per team for the entire year of 2016. American League number 1 slot, 3.6 to 3.0. National League number 2, 2.8 to 3.4. The 3 through 6 slots I'll combine together since they're not very much in either league, 2.8 to 2.1. And this shows you that National League's not interested in having their 3 through 6 hitters bunt any more than the American League is. They care just about much about slugging in those slots as the American League does. Then I'll combine the 7 through 8 slots, 5.6 American League, 7.9 National League, and that's very little difference between the 2 leagues, 14.8 to 16.4. Now if we look at the number 2 slot, this is quite revealing. Your National League number 2 hitters only averaged 3.4 sacrifice bunts for the entire year. Each team was getting only 1 sacrifice bunt for their number 2 hitter every 48 games. That's not believing in the bunt, is it? If it is believing in the bunt, how come it's so low? And why isn't it a lot more than the American League? So this shows that both leagues seem to have the same bunt philosophy. They use it sparingly because it's not very productive. The National League is forced to have their pitchers bunt more only because of their low batting average, not because they believe more in bunting. Then when we get down to the number 9 slot, of course, you do get a lot more bunts in the National League because of the pitchers batting in that slot. American League averaged 8.4 per team per year. National League 28.6 per team per year. Now this 20 difference may seem large, but it really only amounts to just one extra bunt every 8 games. I say it's not worth all the missed singles and doubles you would get from having a normal hitter down there in that number 9 spot in place of the pitcher. Also, the pitcher's bunts do not make up for their low batting average. First of all, 74% of the time there was nobody on base, or there were 2 outs, so they couldn't bunt. Secondly, the pitcher sacrifice bunts amounted to only 8.4% of their plate appearances. In my next video, I'm going to reveal even more misconceptions that people have about the designated hitter.